It is finished. Oh, I did it. I finally did it. I completed Lost. I have watched all 6 seasons. I have been released. 1, from the grip of the show, and 2, from all the people who have constantly begged me to watch this show. The burden has been lifted. I am finished. And oh boy, is this video going to be a long one. I have so much to talk about, from just thoughts on the 6th season to thoughts on the series as a whole. We're going to go back to the character board. I'm going to give you my definitive top 5 favorite characters, while also ranking the entire series from worst to best. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, I have so many notes. Like, every season gets harder and harder to talk about, because contextually it's all over the place, but now that it has been somewhat streamlined and I kind of actually understand the show now, which is just insane, I don't know where to begin. Oh my god. Season has a lot on its plate, because 1, it's one of the most divisive, one of the most complicated, one of the most mystery box shows probably ever created, and this is the final season, so it has a lot on its way, because you want to satisfy audience members, you want to give them conclusions, but how do you do that, and do you do it well? Some people would argue they do not, and some people would argue that they do. And I'm going to argue that they do. I love this show. I love this show. I love this final season. The most epic, frustrating, yet riveting television shows I've ever watched. So I can definitely see why my friends have been trying to get me to watch it for the longest time. You know, season 5 ended with Juliet blowing up the bomb and sacrificing herself so that the island could reset. Well, we find out, well, that didn't work. Juliet died for nothing. Juliet didn't initially die. Somehow, she dies mere seconds after Sawyer finally gets to her, and they have a beautiful, touching moment in the rubble, all covered in blood. That was so sad. So sad. What I find very fascinating about this particular season is, in the previous seasons, we've always had either flashbacks to how they got on the island, or flash forwards to the life after a few of them got off the island. But this season does something different. It shows us an alternate reality in which what would have happened if all of these passengers had gotten off the plane, if the plane had never crashed. And it took the classic phrase, flash sideways, which I think is a really, really cool phrase. But then that turns out to be something completely, entirely something else, which was just mind-blowing. Finally, I thought I was gonna go insane. We now know the origins of the mist monster. And it is a lot to take in. It wasn't what I was expecting. So it turns out Jacob had a twin brother, and he became the Man in Black. And then one day, the Man in Black was wanting to leave. Jacob's mom, played by Allison Janney, who's actually not Jacob's mom, but Allison Janney kills Jacob's mom and then takes on the role. It leads to another. Jacob pushes the Man in Black into the heart of the island, which is this glowing light that they have to protect on the island, and that turns him into the mist monster, because this heart of the island is all things, it's kind of like the soul that we all have. It's our life, it's our death, it's our rebirth, it's how we all manifest and work, and that has to be protected. And that creates the mist monster, who can shapeshift once he has a dead body. So he takes on the form of John Locke. The Mist Monster and John Locke were a lot of different people. So congratulations to that actor. He did a phenomenal job. So surreal to watch that sequence in which everyone is getting off the plane and we see everyone alive. We see Charlie, who tried to almost kill himself in the bathroom, get arrested, and then Saeed, and then all of them getting off the plane and what their lives would have looked like. That was very, very surreal. But that would ultimately come out to be that was, in a sense, not like a heaven or hell, but like a purgatory state for moving on, a place of repentance for these characters so that they could repent of their past and be able to move forward. What that forward is up to our interpretation. I honestly just like to assume that it's whatever religious belief that you personally have. That's what they're moving forward onto, whether it's heaven or hell or nothing. And I just thought that that was riveting, but we'll get to the finale in a moment. Very, very fascinating that the whole concept of the monster, he wants to do the one thing John Locke never wanted to do, and that is leave the island. Jacob is such a cool character. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of him. I did really like the Jacob-centered episode. We learned that Jacob is, in a sense, the god of this island. He masterminded everything. He brought everyone to the island. He had pre-picked them. He took people that he saw himself in, people who were failures, people who made mistakes, but felt like with the right push, they could become good and become new protectors of the islands, and they called those people the candidates. And they find this massive lighthouse, and on that lighthouse there's a wheel, and it has everyone's names etched out, and it's down to 6. And I love that the numbers on the wheel that they had picked were 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, and 42. Just one last chance of making those numbers all come together. One thing I wasn't quite a fan of was Rambo Claire. Claire going absolutely insane and going full Rambo. And Claire, you went MIA. They couldn't find you. They had a chance to leave and they took it. So chill. Oh my God, one of my favorite episodes of the entire series was the Richard Heavy episode, where we see his wife die and he accidentally murders a man, and because of the times he lived in, even the priest wouldn't forgive him of his sin, so he thought that he was literally going to go to hell, and then he gets shipped off to be a slave on the new world. Oh my God, all of that was riveting. And once he gets to the island, he believes that he is actually in hell and that he has a choice. Richard believed that if they didn't kill the man in black, then everyone would go to hell, and that the island was, in a sense, a place of purgatory, a waiting room, in a sense, for hell. But if they killed the man in black, they would never go. What I love about this Richard episode is it felt very religious. It felt very biblical. It felt Richard took on the role of an apostle trying to lead people to Jacob and not people to the man in black, who was ultimately trying to get off the island, and by getting off the island, in a sense, he would be taking them to like a hell-like place. I loved all of that. In fact, I actually thought that that was going to be contextually what the whole show was about, and that if John Locke had gotten off the island, he would have just taken them all to hell. But we ultimately realized John Locke just wanted them all together so he could kill them all, because he can't leave the island unless he felt like all of them were dead, including Jacob, which Jacob, of course, dies, and that was all just insane. I loved all of the Richard stuff. Richard was one of my favorite characters on the show. He was just so mysterious and interesting, and I was right. The man couldn't age, and he was granted immortality because he was helping Jacob. Because when they unplugged the little thing, it kind of, the cork of what holds evil all in and all that stuff, like a Pandora's box type of ordeal, it let him to be mortal. So now Richard gets to live out his life like a normal human being. Desmond, my beloved Desmond. And I was getting nervous, I'm not gonna lie. Desmond wasn't showing up for a good chunk of this final season. I was like, if y'all don't bring back my boy Desmond, I'm gonna snap. So Desmond gets used for an experiment because his body is like able to maintain a lot of radioactive magnetic force or whatnot, and because of that, he's able to, in a sense, travel to this alternate reality, you know, this flash sideways. And when he's there, he meets Charlie, and Charlie kind of wakes him up, and then he meets Daniel, and Daniel says, we're living in the wrong life. And then Desmond's able to, in a sense, go around in this flash sideways, in a sense, to wake people up and to get them to all come together because everyone is connected. Came to any romance on the show, it was always about Desmond and Penny. Desmond and Penny, then Son and Jen, and then Sawyer and Juliet. I don't know why anyone would want to be with Jack. That guy looks like white sawdust. Boy, Hugo and Libby, they reconnect! Libby is in the mental institution, but when the second that she saw him, she was like, we're connected, we're soulmates. I love that, I love that, I love that. They got their date! They got their date on the beach! I love that. Find that the whispers on the island are the souls of people who died and can't pass on. So we're able to see Michael and stuff like that on the island. But what I love about that is since we never saw Libby on the island, it meant that she probably was able to pass on, and that's how she was able to go to this flash sideways. Sun and Jin, they were... I love them. Their reunited moment was everything. Crying. Even though I know it wasn't John Locke, it was technically the Man in Black, just manifesting as John Locke. But, good Lord, when Locke blows up the submarine and Sun gets pinned and is trying to tell Jin to leave, to go home, because someone needs to take care of the daughter, and Jin's like, no. I said that we're never leaving. Let me tell you, bravo to the writers of Lost, because they made Jin a despicable character in the beginning and so likable 100 episodes later. I was wailing. Jin will never physically get to see his daughter. Cut the cameras, dead ass, cut the cameras right now. See, Charles Whitmore gets shot by Ben. Love that. Hate that despicable man. Ugh. See that Jacob is literally about to die, like the last bit of his ashes are burning up, and he literally gets the remaining candidates together. He says, one of y'all has to pick who's going to be the new protector before I disintegrate. Jack takes on the role, and then he decides that he's going to go down into the heart where they've got Desmond at, because Desmond's trying to pop out the cork in hopes to, in a sense, Jack wants to blow up the island because he believes if he blows up the island, he'll be able to kill the Man in Black, which ultimately he is and does do. Unfortunately, after he kills the Man in Black, the island is still falling apart. He has to go back into the heart and put the cork back in, and in doing so, he kind of like sacrifices himself. He gets severely injured, and then he dies out in the bamboo stuff. But before dying out, he technically switched his powers over to Hugo, and Hugo becomes the new proper owner of the island, which I love that. Everyone loves Hugo. And he brings on Ben. Now let's talk about the finale. This finale, holy moly. Lord, was this an emotional finale. I watched the uncut finale, so it played like a movie, and y'all, I was wrecked. Seeing everyone come together and remembering their memories and all that stuff was just so beautiful and so powerful, and how by remembering it all, they were all able to come and reconvene at Jack's dad's funeral, and by doing so, they're able to move on. So in a sense, the Flash Sideways, this alternate reality was a reality that they had all conjured up. In a sense, the island wasn't purgatory. Everything that happened on the island happened on the island. That's my personal opinion. I know people can say that the credits indicate that they all died immediately on impact. I don't want to believe that. I believe that they all died respectfully at some point in their lives, but everything that happened on the island happened, and this was the purgatory, their waiting room that they made before passing on. And Ben deciding not to go in because he felt like he still had a little bit more forgiving, some more repenting to do before he could go into the church, was very, very powerful. Ben did do some despicable things, and I wonder if the writers felt like maybe if they had let Ben go into church, people would have been upset with that. I love Ben. I felt like he redeemed himself, especially if you watch the epilogue where you see like Hugo and Ben going around closing all the Dharma initiatives, because as we saw with the show, Dharma initiative, what they were trying to do is they heard about the island, they were trying to study the island, and in a sense they both succeeded and failed. They understood that the island was powerful and possessed supernatural abilities, but unfortunately because of their greed it ultimately ended up being their downfall. But a lot of their hubs were unaware. So I love that Hugo and Ben teamed up to close down a lot of the shops. But luckily, I could see that Ben still has some forgiving to do. I felt like he needs to go and reconnect with his daughter now that he knows, and Danielle, because he technically got both of them killed, and that he needed to go and close those darn initiatives since he was so involved in that before that he could have fully accept his sins and then being able to move on. And the whole church sequence, bawling like a mother, just seeing everyone reconnected who were on this flight, just overwhelmed, beautiful. Wow, what a show. Did I get all the answers that I wanted? No, I didn't. But the great thing about the show is I got all the major things that I personally wanted to get answered, and there was enough left open to ambiguity that personally I feel like if I go back and rewatch, I can uncover on my own terms. And when it comes to the series as a whole, I would say this was one of the most frustrating, riveting, exciting, yet awesome shows I've ever watched. When it comes to the series as a whole, I'm kind of torn between the constant of season 4 as my favorite episode or the season 3 finale, because I don't think I've ever cried as hard as I ever have over a death the way that I did with Charlie. And that leads me to the character board. Favorite characters of this entire series: number 5, Charlie, loved him. Number 4, Ben, loved him. Evil, but loved him. I love a good villain. Number 3, my girl Son. 2, Desmond. And number 1, John Locke. I love John Locke. One of the best characters I think I have ever seen on television. He was always fascinating. He's a hero, then he's a villain, then he's like the devil himself sometimes. It's just insane. Now I'm going to rank all the seasons, and I'm just going to spitball them, because if you want to know my opinion on why certain ones, well, you can just go watch the reviews again. And I feel like my rank is going to be a little controversial, but I don't care. Let's go. Coming in my bottom spot at number 6, I have the 5th season. Number 5, I have the 2nd season. And my number 4 spot, I have the 1st season. I know. It's just way too long, and certain characters like Shannon drove me nuts. Number 3, I have the 6th season. I know, the final season, the very divisive final season. Coming in my number 2 spot, I have the 3rd season. And number 1, I have the 4th season, which is just so special. It's so unique. It's so different. It's just so personal. I can't wait to just talk about this publicly now. Now that I have shared my thoughts, I can now start promoting it on social media. If you don't ever see a video from me, it's because my friends have secretly killed me because they don't know I've been watching it all this time. The score goes, I would give the final season of Lost a 4.5 out of 5. As a series as a whole, I would give the whole series a 4 out of 5. What a blast. So in case my friends kill me, I'll see you in another life, brother. And until next time, I'm the Slasher Movier, and you guys have just been slashed.